Welcome, dear listener, to a journey across time and myth. The Eternal Dawn of Athena begins, where night surrenders to light. Imagine a quiet horizon, touched by the first golden breath of morning. The air is cool, yet filled with promise, as shadows slowly retreat. Long ago, in the heart of Greece, people lifted their eyes to the sky. They spoke of a goddess who carried wisdom like a lantern in the dark. Her name was Athena, born not in silence, but in brilliance and clarity. She was not a goddess of chaos, but of balance, thought, and creation. Her presence was felt in the olive tree, rooted deep yet reaching high. It was heard in the calm voice of reason that tames restless hearts. It was seen in the sunrise, steady and eternal, guiding every new day. Athena's dawn was not only for temples or kings, but for every soul. It whispered in the dreams of poets and the questions of philosophers. It shone on the marble stones of Athens and the pages of human thought. This dawn did not fade with centuries. It traveled through ages. And tonight, as you listen, you too are touched by that same light. The story of Athena is the story of wisdom that never sleeps. It is the story of a dawn that rises forever within us. Close your eyes, dear listener, and step into a world where myths breathe like morning air. The beginning of Athena's story is wrapped in mystery, bright and full of meaning. Long before temples touched the sky, there was silence, waiting for thought to awaken. From that silence came a spark, a vision of wisdom taking form in divine light. Athena was not born like others, for her birth was woven with clarity, not confusion. She arrived as an idea made flesh, a thought given shape, radiant and pure. Her first breath was not a cry, but a calm note, steady like the rising dawn. Imagine a vast sky, where clouds drifted apart to reveal her shining presence. She carried with her no sword of fury, only the brilliance of mind and vision. Athena's gaze was steady, her spirit anchored in balance and quiet strength. She was not chaos, not storm, but the harmony that follows after turmoil. In her eyes, mortals saw both compassion and the courage to seek truth. Her crown was not of jewels, but of light, woven from clarity and understanding. The gods marveled, for she was born whole, filled with purpose from the start. She walked with grace, and the earth itself seemed to listen to her steps. Every leaf turned, every stone stilled, as if the world welcomed her dawn. Athena did not shout her presence. She whispered it with wisdom and calm. Her birth was more than a moment. It was a promise that wisdom would endure. And so the people of Greece told stories of her shining arrival. They said her light carried through the mountains, reaching every hidden valley. They said her calm voice lingered on the wind, guiding those who listened. She became the symbol of clarity in a world of shifting shadow. Athena was the dawn that did not fade, the light that did not tremble. In every telling, she rose not as a warrior first, but as a guide. Her strength was of the mind, sharper than any blade forged in fire. Her heart was steady, unmoved by pride, rooted in wisdom and fairness. The myths did not need blood or fear to show her greatness. Instead, they spoke of her patience, her endless devotion to balance. Her arrival marked a new way of seeing the divine, not as storm or destruction, but as thought, vision, and harmony. Mortals found courage in her presence, for she reminded them of truth. She was the spark that ignited ideas in poets and questions in thinkers. Her name became a beacon, carried in prayers at dawn and twilight. And so, Athena's beginning was not an end of night, but a promise of day, a day that would stretch beyond Greece, beyond time itself. for every birth of wisdom in any age echoed her first light. She was not only of Olympus, but of every mind seeking clarity. The olive tree would later grow as her gift, but her first gift was thought. She taught that thought itself could be sacred, worthy of reverence. Her story was passed from lips to lips, fire to fire, through generations. No drop of blood was needed, only the strength of her presence. Her dawn was endless, and in its glow, humanity found guidance. So, as the first part of her story unfolds, remember this truth. Athena was not just born. She awakened within the human spirit. She was the whisper in silence, the light within darkness. She was, and remains, the eternal dawn that never fades. The story of Athena does not end with her radiant birth. It begins to weave into the lives of mortals. Far below the heavens, a city was rising from stone, soil, and the dreams of its people. This place would one day be called Athens, a name born of promise and divine blessing. But in the beginning, it was only an idea, a spark waiting to be shaped. The gods themselves watched over the land, each desiring to leave a mark. Poseidon, ruler of the seas, sought to claim the city as his own. He raised his mighty hand and brought forth a fountain of salt water. Its waves leapt high, roaring with power, a gift of strength and force. Yet the people hesitated, for the water was wild and the sea was harsh. They longed not only for might, but for something lasting, gentle and wise. Then came Athena, walking with quiet steps, her presence calm as morning. She did not call upon thunder or storm to announce her gift. Instead, she bent to the soil and touched it with her hand. From that simple gesture rose a slender tree, its leaves shimmering green. It was the olive tree, delicate yet enduring, rooted deep in the earth. Its branches swayed, offering shade, nourishment, and the promise of peace. The people gathered around, their eyes wide with wonder and hope. For in this tree they saw more than fruit. They saw a future. The olive gave oil for lamps, bringing light to their darkest nights. It gave nourishment, rich and sustaining, a gift for every household. It offered wood for craft, sturdy yet graceful, shaping tools and homes. And most of all, it offered a symbol of peace, calm after storm. The gods looked upon Athena's gift and knew its meaning ran deep. Poseidon's fountain was strong, but it would one day fade into the sea. The olive tree was steady, living, growing, and lasting for generations. The people lifted their voices, choosing Athena as the guardian of their city. Thus the city of Athens was born, crowned not by force, but by wisdom. Athena smiled, not with pride, but with the calm of quiet fulfillment. Her gift was not a weapon, but a promise of balance and harmony. In every branch, the people saw her guiding hand and eternal dawn. As the seasons passed, the olive tree grew, its roots digging deeper. It stood on the sacred hill, a living witness to the bond between goddess and city. Travelers came from far lands and marveled at its enduring strength. They whispered of Athens as the place where wisdom chose to dwell. And so Athens became more than a city. It became an idea that knowledge and peace could outlast storm and fury. The Parthenon would rise in time, a temple of marble and devotion. But before stone touched sky, it was the olive that held the heart of Athens. Every leaf shimmered like a prayer, every harvest like a hymn of gratitude. Children played beneath its branches, elders told stories in its shade. It became the rhythm of daily life, the quiet companion of the city. Through it all, Athena's presence lingered, subtle but unshakable. Not as thunder, but as the whisper of wind in silver leaves. Not as fire, but as the steady flame of a lamp lit with oil. Her dawn rose again each morning, glowing on the hill of the Acropolis. And the people remembered that their city was born of wisdom, not war. The story of the olive tree was told from voice to voice, fire to fire. It traveled beyond Athens, across seas and through ages, carrying its meaning. To plant an olive was to honor Athena, to believe in the gift of peace. Even today, the tale endures, rooted deep in human memory. Athena's tree still stands, a symbol of hope, harmony, and eternal dawn. The city she blessed continues to bear her name, a legacy without end. And so part 2 of our journey reminds us of a truth unbroken. Greatness is not born from power alone, but from the wisdom to give life. Athens rose not through conquest, but through the gentle strength of an olive tree. And through that tree, Athena's light shines across the centuries, forever guiding. At dawn, the city of Athens awoke beneath a sky brushed with gold and quiet light. The Acropolis stood tall, its stones glowing as the sun reached over the horizon. Morning in Athens was more than a routine. It was a ritual of hope renewed. The first rays touched the Parthenon, and marble turned into living fire. Every column seemed to sing, every shadow stretched like a prayer to the heavens. The people paused in their tasks, raising their eyes to the sacred hill. For them, the dawn was not only the sun's return, but Athena's eternal gift. Her presence was felt in the light, steady and calm, blessing the waking city. Merchants opening their stalls whispered her name in gratitude and reverence. Children chasing each other in the streets laughed beneath her unseen gaze. Philosophers gathered under porticos, their voices rising like gentle birdsong. Each question they asked was a thread, weaving into the fabric of her wisdom. The Acropolis was not only stone and art, it was a promise carved in sky. Its steps carried the weight of pilgrims, seekers, and dreamers from afar. Travelers climbed the hill, their hearts beating with awe as they entered the gates. The great temples glowed like beacons, guardians of thought and harmony. No battle cries echoed here, only the sound of wind and whispered prayers. Olive leaves shimmered in the light, rustling softly as if Athena spoke. The city's lifeblood pulsed in rhythm with the dawn that never failed. Each sunrise reminded Athens of the choice made long ago. A city born of peace, nurtured by wisdom, crowned by the eternal olive. As day stretched forward, artisans lifted their tools with renewed devotion. Their hands shaped marble, painted pottery, and forged works of quiet grace. Every stroke and every carving was an offering to the goddess of clarity. Even the humblest craftsman believed he worked under Athena's guiding eyes. The agora below the hill filled with voices, a chorus of life and trade. Olives, wine, and stories exchanged, weaving bonds stronger than stone. Yet above it all, the Acropolis gleamed, a silent guardian of the city. Its walls bore no chains, its gates no weapons, only open paths for pilgrims. Here, Athena's spirit lingered not in fear, but in inspiration everlasting. At sunset, shadows gathered, but did not overwhelm the sacred hill. Fires were lit, lamps fed with olive oil, their flames steady and pure. Even in darkness, the Acropolis remained a beacon of thought and faith. Athenians looked up at night and saw stars crowning Athena's domain. Her wisdom was not bound to daylight. It lived in every quiet reflection. Dreamers spoke her name in silence. Seekers found her in contemplation. For them, the Acropolis was a bridge between earth and divine thought. Each dawn returned to renew this promise, endless and unbroken. It was more than the rising of the sun. It was the rising of hope. The Parthenon's columns stood as guardians of memory and vision. Their symmetry was not only beauty, but a lesson in balance. Their strength was not brute force, but harmony in stone. Travelers carried tales of Athens to distant lands, of light upon marble. They spoke of a city guided by wisdom, not by thunder or storm. And so the Acropolis became a symbol far beyond its borders, a symbol of clarity, courage, and the eternal dawn of Athena. The city breathed with the rhythm of her presence, day after day. Each morning the horizon opened like a book, its pages golden. Each evening the lamps glowed with oil. Small suns lit in her honor. Athena's dawn was not only above the city, it was within its soul. In every thought, in every act of kindness, her light returned. Thus, Part 3 reveals the living heart of Athens at dawn, a heart illuminated by stone, olive, and the goddess who never fades. The Acropolis stands still, touched by the same golden light. And with each sunrise, the story of Athena begins anew. In the heart of Athens, wisdom did not speak with thunder, but with the softness of a whisper. Athena's presence was felt not in noise, but in the calm clarity of thought. She was the silent teacher, guiding choices through reason rather than command. Her voice was not heard by ears, but by the mind, steady and unshakable. Philosophers gathered in shaded courtyards, asking questions that reached beyond the stars. They spoke of justice, virtue, and truth, each word echoing her unseen guidance. In the agora, debates unfolded like rivers, flowing with the spirit of inquiry. Athena was there, unseen, weaving threads of clarity through tangled voices. A young thinker paused before speaking, and within silence found her wisdom. A judge weighed the pleas of two men, and her calm hand steadied his heart. Children learning their letters found patience in her quiet encouragement. Every act of reflection, no matter how small, carried her guiding spark. The people believed wisdom was a gift, and Athena its eternal guardian. For wisdom did not belong to one, but to all who sought it earnestly. Her voice could be felt when anger softened into understanding. Her presence was near when pride yielded to fairness and humility. Athena did not demand worship with fear, but invited reverence through thought. Her temples stood not only as monuments, but as schools of the soul. Each stone was a reminder that wisdom outlasts the fleeting shadows of power. Athenians rose with the dawn, trusting that her light would guide the day. Poets found her in rhythm, sculptors in form, and lawmakers in fairness. Her wisdom was like water, shaping every vessel it touched without force. She was the gentle compass pointing always toward truth and harmony. In moments of confusion, the people would say, "Listen for Athena's voice." And though no sound filled the air, clarity often bloomed in silence. Socrates, Plato, and countless others drew upon this sacred presence. Their questions were lanterns lit by the eternal flame of her thought. They sought not conquest, but understanding, not noise, but meaning. Athena was their unseen companion in dialogue, their dawn in the night. Her influence reached beyond scholars and rulers into daily life. Farmers choosing when to plant trusted her rhythm in the seasons. Mothers teaching their children spoke her lessons in kindness and truth. Merchants striking fair bargains carried her spirit in honest trade. Her voice was not lofty, but close, like the breath of morning air. She lived in the pause before decision, in the stillness before speech. And in that pause, the right path revealed itself like dawn on the horizon. The voice of wisdom was not always easy, for it asked for patience. It required listening, not rushing, reflection, not impulse. Yet those who followed it found strength that endured longer than force. For battles end, but wisdom continues, like the olive tree's roots in stone. Athena's gift was not the roar of the storm, but the calm after it. Not the clash of armies, but the vision of peace built with care. Her whispers were timeless, carried through ages like threads of light. They reached beyond Athens, beyond Greece, into every heart that listens. And so, the people knew that wisdom is not loud, but eternal. It does not fade with time, but grows deeper with every generation. The goddess of wisdom walked not ahead nor behind, but within. She was the voice of reason, the calm in the storm of thought. And in Athens, her dawn rose each day, not only in the sky. It rose in the hearts of people who dared to think with clarity. Thus, Part 4 reminds us that wisdom speaks softly, but shines forever. Athena's voice of reason is not distant, but within us still today. The Parthenon stood high upon the Acropolis, a crown of stone touched by the sun. It was more than marble and columns. It was the breath of a people's devotion. Each pillar was a prayer carved in stone, each step a reminder of divine presence. Athena's spirit was felt in every line, every shadow cast by its enduring form. Builders raised it not with haste, but with patience that mirrored her wisdom. They carved with precision, guided by the belief that beauty reflects harmony. Within its walls, the goddess of wisdom was honored, yet never imprisoned. Her essence was free, flowing like the wind through the city's heart. Citizens climbed the steps, carrying offerings not of gold, but of gratitude. Olive oil, flowers, and small tokens were left at her altar with reverence. Priests lit lamps that burned steadily, symbolizing wisdom's eternal flame. The air was filled with hymns, voices rising gently like the dawn itself. No fear haunted the temple, only a calm sense of belonging and purpose. The Parthenon was not a fortress, but a sanctuary of the human spirit. Its stones echoed not conquest, but the pursuit of balance and clarity. Travelers came from distant lands, marveling at its grace and light. They spoke of Athens as a city where wisdom walked beside its people. The Parthenon stood as a mirror of that vision, shining across ages. Every festival held within its shadow celebrated more than ritual. It was a gathering of minds, hearts, and hopes under Athena's gaze. The Panathenaic festival brought the city together in unity. Processions wound through streets, carrying cloth woven for the goddess. Children, elders, rulers, and commoners walked side by side in reverence. They offered their gifts not to a distant deity, but to wisdom itself. Athena's temple became a living heart where all voices found place. It was not grandeur alone that made it sacred, but the harmony it fostered. Art and architecture joined hands with philosophy and devotion. The Parthenon was both a temple and a teacher, silent yet eloquent. Its proportions whispered of order, its design sang of balance. Even its imperfections were deliberate, crafted to please the human eye. Thus, it taught that wisdom is not cold perfection, but living grace. Within its presence, people remembered that beauty guides the soul to truth. The temple looked down upon the city, a guardian without chains. By night, the moon kissed its stones, casting silver over silent columns. By day, the sun revealed its golden glow, a beacon across the sea. Sailors returning to port would glimpse it and feel their hearts lifted. They knew Athena's light awaited them, steady and unchanging. The Parthenon became more than Athens. It became a symbol of humanity. It showed that reverence could be built not in fear, but in honor. It declared that wisdom deserves not silence, but celebration. Generations passed, yet its stones endured storms, winds, and time. Even as empires rose and fell, its form remained, like the olive tree. And still, it whispered the lesson of its goddess. Seek wisdom always, not in distant stars, but in the choices of each day and each heart. The Parthenon, though silent, continues to tell this story across centuries. It is the temple of dawn, of reason, of light that never fades. A reminder that true devotion is not in conquest, but in creation, that the highest honor to a goddess is to live by her wisdom. Thus, in every stone, Athena's eternal dawn continues to rise. And in its presence, the world still learns to see with clearer eyes. In the quiet corners of Athens, wisdom was not only spoken, but also lived. Athena's light touched the lives of ordinary people in gentle and lasting ways. Her presence was not confined to temples, but breathed in daily life. Farmers rose with dawn, guided by her rhythm in the cycles of nature. They knew when to sow, when to rest, when to wait for rain. The olive tree, her sacred gift, stood as a symbol of endurance. It gave oil for lamps, fruit for nourishment, and wood for warmth. Every branch whispered the lesson of patience and resilience. In homes, mothers taught their children the values of fairness and truth. They told stories of the goddess who chose reason over force. Fathers spoke of her guidance in trade, urging honesty over greed. Children learned to share, to listen, and to question with open minds. Athena's wisdom was found not in distant ideals, but in humble acts. A neighbor helping another rebuild a wall carried her quiet influence. A merchant giving fair weight showed her spirit of balance. A healer using herbs with care reflected her gift of knowledge. Wisdom became a way of living, not a distant dream. The city itself grew around these values, like vines around stone. Markets bustled with trade, yet trust bound them stronger than coin. Workshops echoed with craft, where artisans sought harmony and form. Every creation, no matter how small, was touched by Athena's essence. Sculptors carved not for vanity, but to honor proportion and beauty. Potters shaped vessels that carried both water and the spirit of grace. Athens became a city where daily life mirrored divine thought. Even laughter and song carried wisdom, teaching joy in moderation. Festivals celebrated not only gods, but the strength of community. Athena's wisdom reminded people that unity was as sacred as belief. When disagreements arose, citizens gathered in the agora. They listened, they spoke, and they sought resolution with reason. Athena's hand was there, unseen, calming pride and guiding justice. Her light was in the pause before anger, in the choice of kindness. Life under her influence was not perfect, but it was thoughtful. It carried a rhythm that balanced work, rest, and reflection. As evening fell, families gathered under olive lamps. Stories were told, weaving past and present in gentle words. Children listened wide-eyed, learning that wisdom was a treasure within. They were told that Athena's dawn lives in the courage to think, not in power, but in understanding, not in force, but in peace. This was the inheritance of every citizen, rich or poor alike. Athena's wisdom was not for rulers alone, but for every heart. Her voice was as close as the wind, as steady as the sea. It spoke in the hush of twilight, in the laughter of children, in the silence of thought. The people knew that wisdom is not distant, but woven into life. It lives in every choice, every word, every quiet act of care. And so Athens thrived, not only in strength, but in spirit. It became a place where wisdom was not just revered, but practiced. The dawn of Athena was felt in plowed fields, in busy markets, in humble homes. It was the guiding flame in a world often clouded with noise. Athena's presence was not an idea, but a living truth. Her eternal dawn rose each day in the heart of her people. And in that rising light, Athens learned how to live with harmony. For wisdom once planted grows like the olive tree, strong and eternal. Philosophy in Athens was more than debate. It was the heartbeat of the city. In shaded courtyards, questions blossomed like flowers reaching toward the sun. Athena's presence was felt in every inquiry, guiding minds to clarity. Socrates wandered the streets, asking questions that pierced the surface of thought. He believed wisdom began not with answers, but with honest wonder. His dialogues echoed with Athena's spirit, urging reflection over certainty. Plato, his student, dreamed of a world shaped by ideals. He imagined forms beyond shadows, truth shining brighter than illusion. In his academy, minds gathered to chase the light of understanding. Athena's dawn was their compass, steady and illuminating. Aristotle, in turn, grounded philosophy in observation and reason. He studied the world as it was, seeing order in nature. From stars above to creatures below, he sought patterns of truth. His logic built pathways where wisdom could walk with clarity. Athens became a living school where every stone seemed to teach. The agora was a classroom, the streets a library of voices. Athena's gift was not only to the learned, but to all. Every question asked by a child, every debate among elders, carried her touch. Philosophy was not distant. It was woven into daily life. Citizens gathered to listen, to challenge, to think with courage. The goddess of wisdom smiled upon this pursuit of truth, for she knew that the search mattered more than the destination. In these conversations, the city discovered its soul. Ideas of justice, virtue, and beauty grew like olive trees. They rooted deep, yet reached high, shaping both law and art. Wisdom was no longer only divine. It was a shared inheritance. Athena's dawn shone brightest when people dared to question themselves. Socrates taught that an unexamined life was empty of meaning. Plato urged the pursuit of ideals that guided the human spirit. Aristotle revealed that even the smallest creature held wisdom within. Together, their voices carried Athena's eternal light across centuries. Philosophy was not a game of words, but a way of living. It guided choices, tempered pride, and nurtured understanding. Athena's spirit was present in the humility to admit ignorance. For wisdom begins where arrogance ends and curiosity opens. The people of Athens learned that truth is not owned, but sought. That every voice adds a note to the song of reason. Even disagreement was sacred, for it sharpened thought and deepened vision. Athena's dawn rose not in uniformity, but in dialogue. It was the light that revealed many paths, not only one. In her name, philosophy flourished, a beacon to the world. From Athens, ideas sailed across seas and centuries alike. They inspired distant lands, shaping minds far beyond Greece. And though time has carried those voices into history's echo, they remain. For each question asked today is a spark of that same flame. Athena's eternal dawn shines in every classroom, every library, every quiet reflection. It lives in the courage to ask, to doubt, to seek with honesty. The philosophers of Athens did not worship her in silence. They honored her by thinking, by questioning, by striving toward truth. And so the city became not only a place of stone, but of mind. Its legacy was not walls or monuments, but wisdom itself. Athena's gift was carried forward, timeless and unbroken. A dawn that rises in every thought, every question, every search for light. Art in Athens was not mere decoration. It was a language of the soul. Every sculpture, every vase, every mural spoke in silence, yet with power. Athena's hand was seen in the pursuit of harmony and proportion. Artists believed beauty was a bridge between mortal hearts and divine truth. The Parthenon's carvings told stories, yet each line carried deeper meaning. Figures of gods and heroes were shaped with grace, not pride. They were not monuments of conquest, but lessons of balance. A sculptor chiseling marble knew he worked with both stone and spirit. His hands followed rhythm, guided by Athena's invisible presence. Each curve of form echoed her wisdom, each detail her clarity. Painters on pottery did not simply decorate, they recorded lives. Scenes of harvest, of games, of worship filled their vessels. In them, the goddess of wisdom was quietly present. For she taught that every act, however ordinary, held beauty. The theater also blossomed under her dawn. Plays were not just entertainment, but reflections of human truth. Tragedies asked questions of fate, choice, and the weight of virtue. Comedies laughed at pride, reminding people of humility's grace. The stage became a mirror, showing Athens its own heart. Athena's spirit lingered in every chorus, in every line spoken. Writers sought not only to amuse, but to awaken thought. Thus, drama itself became an offering to wisdom. Music, too, carried her essence, flowing through the streets at dusk. The sound of lyres and flutes lifted hearts into harmony. Every note was a thread in the tapestry of reason and joy. Athenians believed beauty was not luxury, but necessity. It taught the soul to recognize truth in form and sound. Athena's gift was not only logic, but the art of balance. For wisdom without beauty is cold, and beauty without wisdom is shallow. Together, they created a city where life itself became art. Children drew shapes in sand, learning proportion through play. Craftsmen built with care, seeing temples and even humble homes. Every object, every space, was touched by a search for grace. Athens was alive with color, sound, and form shaped by wisdom. Visitors marveled not only at its temples, but its spirit. They saw a people who believed art was a pathway to truth. For Athena's dawn shone not only in ideas, but in creations. A pot of clay, a song at twilight, a mask upon a stage. All carried her eternal whisper, reminding hearts of harmony. Art did not glorify rulers, it celebrated the divine in all. It honored balance, humility, and the beauty of human striving. Thus, art was not apart from life, but woven into it. It taught patience, discipline, and the courage to create with meaning. And so Athens became more than a city. It was a canvas. Its people painted with thought, sculpted with love, sang with hope. Athena's eternal dawn was visible not only in sunrise. It was alive in every mural, every poem, every song. Generations carried this torch, proving that art is timeless wisdom, a wisdom that speaks across centuries, beyond language or nation. Athena's light remains in every brushstroke, in every chord played. She is present wherever beauty and truth meet in harmony. Thus, Part 8 reminds us that art is not vanity, but vision. A vision born of wisdom, carried by hands, voices, and hearts. Athena's dawn shines in every act of creation, then and now. Athens was more than temples, theaters, and debates. It was a city of festivals. Life pulsed with rhythm, guided by rituals of celebration and reverence. Athena's presence was strongest during the Panathenaea, her grand festival. Citizens gathered in vast numbers, united in honor of their patron goddess. The streets filled with music, processions, and offerings carried to the Acropolis. Young men marched proudly, women wove garments, children watched with awe. At the center was the peplos, a robe woven for the goddess. It was not just fabric, but devotion stitched into every thread. The robe was presented to Athena with songs and solemn rites. For Athenians, this act was a symbol of unity and faith. Athena's dawn shone not only in wisdom, but in shared tradition. The festival blended art, sport, and ritual into a single harmony. Athletes raced, wrestled, and competed, their bodies honoring divine strength. Yet even here, the spirit was not conquest, but reverence. Victory was a gift offered to Athena, not a boast of pride. Music filled the air with flutes and lyres lifting spirits high. Poets recited verses, weaving words as offerings of the heart. The theater, too, was part of this living celebration of culture. Every act was a reminder that life itself could be sacred. The Panathenea was not only for the few, but for all. Farmers, craftsmen, philosophers, and children stood together as equals. Athena's dawn embraced them in light, binding city and soul. Beyond the grand festival, smaller rituals colored the year. Families poured libations at hearths, whispering thanks to unseen powers. Markets echoed with laughter as offerings were bought for the gods. Each act, however simple, carried weight in the rhythm of devotion. Athena's presence was felt not only in stone, but in spirit. She was the guardian of fairness, of humility, of shared joy. The festivals taught Athenians that wisdom was not abstract alone. It was lived through gratitude, celebration, and the ties of community. Children learned reverence not in books, but in dances and songs. They watched their elders give thanks and carried the tradition forward. Athena's dawn rose anew each time a heart lifted in worship. Even the humblest gesture, a flower laid, a prayer whispered, was sacred. For the goddess of wisdom cared not for grandeur, but sincerity. She taught that true worship was found in balance and honesty. Through festivals, Athens learned to weave joy with reverence, to see wisdom not as a burden, but as a gift. Celebration was not escape from life, but recognition of its meaning. Every festival became a chapter in the city's shared story. Each rite and procession bound Athens closer to its divine guide. Travelers who came witnessed more than ritual. They saw devotion alive. They returned home carrying whispers of Athena's radiant dawn. For what they saw was not only faith, but a way of life. Athenians proved that devotion could be joyous, inclusive, and beautiful. That reverence was not fear, but love. Not silence, but song. Athena's eternal dawn glowed brightest in these gatherings of heart. It showed that wisdom shines when a people celebrate together. And so Athens was a city of light, not only in thought. It was a city of song, of dance, of gratitude and joy. Athena's spirit was honored not in stillness, but in living tradition. Her dawn lived in every procession, every hymn, every woven thread. It lives still wherever people gather in joy to honor truth. Athens did not stand alone. It was part of a vast and shifting world. Ships arrived from distant lands, carrying spices, stories, and strange wonders. The city was a meeting place of cultures, bound by trade and thought. Athena's dawn welcomed diversity, for wisdom thrives in many voices. Merchants from Egypt brought linen, papyrus, and tales of the Nile. Travelers from Persia shared customs, music, and visions of grand palaces. From the east came silks, gems, and philosophies whispered on the wind. From the west arrived grain, metals, and the skills of distant craftsmen. Athens listened, observed, and wove these gifts into its own fabric. In the agora, one could hear a dozen languages in a day. Each voice added a note to the chorus of the city. Athenians learned that wisdom was not confined to their borders. It grew stronger when shared, when tested against new perspectives. Philosophers debated foreign ideas, blending them with their own visions. Artists borrowed styles and techniques, shaping beauty from many traditions. Even religion found echoes, as gods of other lands were honored. Athena's dawn was not jealous. It shone across boundaries and seas. For wisdom cannot be owned. It belongs to all who seek it. Athens became a beacon, not of conquest, but of exchange. Ships left its harbors carrying olive oil, pottery, and philosophy. They returned with treasures of mind and matter, enriching every heart. The city's strength was not only its walls, but its openness. Its legacy was built upon listening as much as upon speaking. Athenians knew that arrogance isolates, but curiosity unites. Thus, trade was not just commerce, but a dialogue of cultures. Markets were places of encounter where strangers became teachers. A child in Athens might play with a toy from Egypt. A poet might find inspiration in a story from the East. A craftsman might perfect his work with a tool from abroad. In every exchange, Athena's light guided the blending of worlds. For she knew that harmony was found not in sameness, but in diversity. Wisdom shone brightest where differences were embraced, not feared. Athens flourished because it welcomed the new without losing the old. Its people built bridges of thought, art, and friendship across the seas. This openness made the city both strong and fragile at once. Strong, for it grew rich in spirit and in knowledge. Fragile, for envy and rivalry always lurked beyond its walls. Yet even in times of challenge, the memory of exchange endured. The dawn of Athena was carried far beyond her temple. It sailed with every traveler who left the city inspired. It reached lands that had never seen the Parthenon's marble glow. It whispered in languages unknown, translated into countless forms of wisdom. Athena's gift was not Athens alone, but the world entire. Her light taught that learning is endless and sharing makes it brighter. Every culture that touched Athens left a mark, a thread in the weave. And Athens in turn gave back, shaping the fabric of history. This is how the eternal dawn spread, quietly, steadily, across horizons. Not by conquest, but by curiosity, generosity, and exchange. Athens became a mirror of the world, reflecting and refracting wisdom. Its streets were alive with the hum of many traditions. Its people learned to see unity in the midst of diversity. Athena's eternal dawn glowed brightest where cultures met in peace. It was the light of connection, of voices blending into harmony. And so part 10 reminds us, wisdom is not a solitary flame. It is a fire tended by many hands across seas and centuries. Athena's dawn rises wherever hearts are open to learn from one another. The story of Athens is not only written in marble or memory. It is alive, carried forward like a flame from one hand to another. Athena's eternal dawn was not a moment, but a promise, unfolding endlessly. The goddess of wisdom taught that every sunrise brings a chance to learn. Her city shone as a beacon, not because of its power, but its mind. Temples may crumble, theaters may fall silent, but wisdom endures always. Athena's gift was never meant for one age alone, but for all time. It lived in questions, in art, in rituals, in the courage to seek truth. It lived in the laughter of children, in the counsel of elders. It lived in the balance between beauty and reason, between tradition and change. The dawn of Athena was eternal because it rose within the human spirit. Every culture touched by Athens carried a spark into its own story. From Rome to the Renaissance, from libraries to classrooms, her light continued. Even today, we walk paths paved by the thought of those before us. When we question, when we wonder, when we create, Athena is present. Her wisdom reminds us that learning is never finished, only continued. That every voice matters in the grand dialogue of humanity. That harmony is not sameness, but the weaving of many threads together. Athena's dawn is not about conquest or dominion, but illumination. It shines where curiosity is nurtured, where knowledge is shared openly. It shines in every act of kindness, guided by reflection. It shines in every attempt to see the world with clearer eyes. Athens taught us that wisdom is both humble and bold at once. Humble to admit ignorance, bold to pursue truth without fear. Its people showed that greatness is measured not by wealth, but by thought, that the strongest walls are not of stone, but of understanding. Today, when we read their words or see their art, we join their legacy. We add our voices to the same timeless conversation. The dawn of Athena calls us still, asking us to listen, to learn. It asks us to balance reason with beauty, justice with compassion. It asks us to remember that wisdom is not solitary but shared. The story of Athens is not distant. It is within us, in every classroom, in every question, in every act of creativity. Athena's eternal dawn rises whenever a mind awakens to wonder. It rises when we choose dialogue over silence, light over shadow. It rises when we dare to seek truth, even in uncertainty. Though the Parthenon stands in ruins, its spirit is unbroken. Though centuries have passed, the dawn still glows on every horizon. The goddess of wisdom remains, not as a figure of stone, but as an ideal. She whispers in the quiet moments when we search for meaning. She walks beside us when we build, when we think, when we create. Her dawn is not bound by time, for it lives in the human heart. So let us carry it forward, as the Athenians once did. Let us honor her not by worship alone, but by action, by questioning with courage, by creating with care, by living with balance. The eternal dawn of Athena is not behind us, but ahead. It is the sunrise that greets us each day with possibility. It is the flame that waits in every mind, ready to be kindled. And as long as we remember, as long as we seek, it will never fade. Athena's dawn is eternal because wisdom itself is eternal. It belongs to no city, no temple, no single people, but to all. And so the story ends, not in silence, but in promise. A promise that wherever truth is sought, the light of Athena will rise.